Hi, my name is Terry, and you're watching Terry Tells the Story. Think of the multiverse like a deck of cards. The odds of shuffling a deck and landing on one specific sequence, where all 52 cards are in one specific order, are astronomical, bordering on impossible. But if you spent your whole career, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 60 years, shuffling that deck as a full-time job, eventually you would expect that exact same order of cards to appear. And more often, you'd land on a deck that was almost the same as the specified sequence, with only maybe 1 or 2 cards out of place. The multiverse theory states that in an infinite universe with billions of planets flung across trillions of galaxies, it stands to reason that somewhere out there are a few planets that are identical to ours. Another version of you, another version of me, living in a world that mirrors our own. And even more than that are multiple worlds that are almost exactly like ours, save for one fundamental difference here or one alteration there. The following is an imagined narrative that details what a reality might look like that was identical to ours, but with one crucial difference. Religion never developed in any part of the world. Because that religious foundation never existed, the political landscape is fundamentally different. Let's be absolutely clear. This is not a world of saints. There are still sociopaths, narcissists, and greedy power seekers who would love to exploit the public for personal gain. However, they are completely neutered because they lack the two tools that make them dangerous in our world: the moral smokescreen and the information blockade. In our world, a politician uses a moral issue, like banning books or fighting over bathrooms, to build a base of followers. Once they have that base, they sneak in bills to cut your school funding or gut the FDA so their donors can sell you meat packed with hair, skin, bugs, and hooves. They rely on the fact that you're too distracted by the culture war to notice your wallet being stolen. I know you want to restrict these type of marriages because the Bible says so you'll vote for me. But once I get into office, I'll also pass a bill to deregulate oversight of the rail industry, leading to dangerous train derailments that leak toxic materials into your kids' drinking water. Or, I know you'll want to prevent these people from serving in your military because that's not right. So you'll support me. But I'll use the power you gave me to slash funding for your kids' elementary school. When a narcissist tries to hide an economic attack behind a moral distraction, the people see it immediately because there is no religion to hide behind. They realize their interests are being sold out, and the politician is laughed out of office before they can gain any traction. Furthermore, in our world, scientific studies show how to build better schools or ensure food safety are buried or ignored because religion takes priority over empirical data. For instance, the study conducted showing that for every dollar spent on education, outcomes for students drastically improves is known by some people, but most people have never heard of it. But on this other planet, scientific discoveries are immediately disseminated, saturating the population within a matter of days. And what's more, almost everyone believes them. There are very few flat earthers or conspiracy theorists of any kind. When presented with empirical data from reputable sources, the people believe it, because there is no mythology to place over reason. Every citizen has a top-tier science-based education. They know exactly how much every dollar spent on education returns to the economy. So, you wake up on a Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Usually you'd be fully awake by now, driven from sleep by the rhythmic clanging of bells, the tambourines, and the impassioned, amplified preaching vibrating through the walls from the church on the corner. But today, the silence is profound. You stretch, you walk to the window and look down. The building that has been the focal point of your neighborhood for decades is gone. In its place is a sleek glass and steel research annex for the university. You watch people in lab coats quietly entering, holding tablets and blueprints, heading to labs instead of pews. You head outside, feeling a strange confusion. You walk past a newsstand, and the headlines are refreshingly mundane. You look for the screaming banners about culture wars, but there are none. You pass a local clinic. You show your ID, walk in, and walk out 15 minutes later with a checkup and a prescription. There are no insurance forms, no predatory billing, and no anxiety about the cost. You walk to the grocery store, and every item is verified for safety, not by market trends, but by a powerful, science-first FDA. The streets under your feet are perfectly paved, not a single pothole to be found. You turn on a street corner kiosk monitor, expecting a debate on social morality, but instead you see a deep dive documentary on high-speed rail expansion, a massive, boring, beautiful project that connects the entire country. The world runs smoothly, not because everyone is perfect, but because the people are too smart to let a power-hungry sociopath sell them out for cheap moral distraction. But further down the street, you see a man sitting in a gutter, head in his hands. You assume he's an alcoholic and prepare to walk on, when you notice he's not holding a bottle, and as you approach, he doesn't smell of liquor. You stop and ask if he needs help, to which he replies, "Why? We're all just specks floating through the universe. We're all gonna die anyway. Why bother to help anyone?" Before going back to softly banging his head against the wall. Disturbed by what the man said, a hollow ache begins to creep up the back of your neck. So you decide to head home to listen to some music, hoping that will clear your mental fog. You put on a record to fill the silence, and the music is technically perfect. You can't put your finger on it, but something is missing. You think of the poets back home who wrote in the shadow of their own despair, the rappers who turned the agony of the hood into a symphony of truth. Here, there is no addiction to write about because there are universal free treatment programs. There is no poverty to fight against because the systemic barriers were dismantled centuries ago. There is no Last Supper to paint, no Sistine Chapel to marvel at, because there was no need to look for heaven when they were busy building it right here on the planet. You realize this is a utopia of pure logic. It is safe, it is advanced, and it's perfectly efficient. But as you look at the stars, you realize that while we have cured the madness of the past, we have also lost the comfort of the why. There is no God to hold you in the palm of his hand when the storm hits, and there is no suffering left to turn into art. You are standing in a world that solved everything, and for the first time, you find yourself missing the noise. The Spanish for today is la distracción. La distracción, the distraction. If you like this video, drop a like down below. We'll see you next time.